From Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, constitutional amendment may suffer defeat as 25 states decline voting. Northern Group denies endorsing any presidential candidate. Women farmers in Nasarawa lose over 200 million naira from flood disaster. And on the foreign scene, United Nations warns Somalia faces worst famine in a half century. Hello and welcome to Trust TV News Hour. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. The Chairman, Joint National Assembly Committee on the Review of the 1999 Constitution and Deputy Senate President Ovie Omo Agege has lamented that only 11 states have voted and complied with the constitutional amendment carried out earlier this year, while 25 states are yet to consider and vote. Omo Agege stated this at a joint press conference on constitutional amendments and the latest developments at the National Assembly on Tuesday. The report.
The Deputy Senate President Ovie Omo Agege accused some state governors of interfering in affairs of state assemblies, thereby turning state lawmakers towards themselves for their selfish gains, as a result of which meaningful contribution is yet to be made to the constitution review process.
If there are bills there that you're not comfortable with, vote it down. But to hold it hostage, you are holding the entire exercise hostage, you are holding the entire country hostage. And that's what we're against. And we thought it is right that the Nigerian people, through the media, understand who is holding this hostage at this particular time.
On state policing, President of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Ayuba Waba, commended the Constitution Review Committee for transparency and fairness.
I can say that this process has been followed up to the letter from the public hearings in the 12 states to the public hearing here in this National Assembly chambers. And Nigerians freely canvass for position on all those issues. And I remembered the position of NLC about the state police was very clear. Check the history of Togri in Nigeria and also insecurity. How do we actually empower political thugs to now become bandits and even become Boko Haram? Check the history very well. It started with political Togri. And clearly, our position is we are not matured for that.
Senator Omo Agege, who is also the co-chairman, Joint Senate and House of Representatives committees on the review of the 1999 Constitution, noted that consultants had recommended over 66 bills from the public hearings and memos submitted by the public.
And to politics now, where the joint Arewa group says it did not endorse any candidate in the just concluded interactive session with presidential candidates in Kaduna. At a press briefing in Kaduna, the joint group maintained that the interactions were to generate commitment from the candidates on how to address the challenges of the North. The report.
5 presidential candidates of the APC, PRP, SDP, Labour Party and PDP submitted their blueprints on how they will address some of the challenges of the North and the country at large. The Joint Arewa Committee at the press briefing said the event was to assess candidates based on their blueprints, not a platform for endorsing any candidate.
These interactions in themselves were not planned by with the goal of endorsing a candidate. They are part of a long process that plans to generate commitments to address the challenges of the North by candidates, and which covers a substantial part of the campaigning period. We plan that Nigerians may measure and evaluate candidates against them. Our goal is to afford citizens an opportunity to match candidates against their commitments to matters that are central to the interests of the North.
The committee maintained that since it wants a peaceful conduct of the 2023 election, it will be vigilant on all fronts ahead of the polls.
Until the election in February 2023, the North will be challenged to raise its vigilance over all electoral activities. It is vital that we prioritize evidence of competence, integrity, quality of preparation, and commitment to address the challenges of the North among candidates. We'll continue to invite attention of the government to the security of the electoral process, and in particular, the vulnerability of many parts of the North to organized crime, which may pose a serious threat to their rights to participate in electing the next set of leaders in 2023.
The committee called on the contestants to avoid exploitation of ethnic and religious sentiment before, during, and after the polls. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
And still talking politics, Kano State governorship candidates of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, and the People's Redemption Party, PRP, have expressed willingness to participate in election debate being organized by the Media Trust Group, owners of Daily Trust, Armenia, and Trust TV. The candidates gave the commitment on Tuesday when the chairman of the Media Trust Debate Planning Committee, Suleiman, visited them in Kano. Trust TV correspondent Idris Jibrin reports.
According to Suleiman, tagged Trust Nigeria 2023 elections debate. The debate is expected to give political parties and their candidate for the upcoming general elections the opportunity to get their plans and agenda across the voters. The deputy governorship candidate of the NNPP, Amina Abdisalam, said they are looking forward for the debate, while commending the Media Trust Group for all the initiative it has been taken to enrich national discourse.
In the process of the debate, people will be able to sift out, to understand the type of people they have before them. And certainly it will go a long way in helping them in taking a decision as to where to go. We are confident, inshallah ta'ala, you will not be disappointed.
2023, I think it seems to be different. It seems to take a different dimension because you have trust team putting together the debate. You have other media houses and other organizations that are also trying to make issues the center stage of 2023 elections, which is welcoming. On my own part, I believe we have been getting ready for this opportunity even before we knew we were going to contest.
Meanwhile, the police commissioner, Abubakar Lawal, as well as the state director of the Department of State Services, Al-Hassan Muhammad, also assured of their support for the debate, promising to ensure adequate security before, during, and after the event.
It's a very good initiative. Yes, in the sense that when you bring out these political parties, they will bring out their manifestos and try to sell it to people. Whoever has pure argument, like I said, who have good ideas, definitely, and is able to convince people that day of the debate, convincingly, I'm sure is going to have the upper hand. So it's a good initiative, and we're going to support you toward that.
In the next coming days, the Media Trust Group is expected to meet other political party candidates across Kano State. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Meanwhile, some northern Nigeria groups held formal engagements in Kaduna with the 2023 presidential candidates on policy, strategies and economic blueprints designed to address existential and contemporary challenges plaguing the North and the country in general. The motive of the idea, however, generated controversy when one of the invited candidates alleged that the group will endorse one presidential candidate who is bankrolling the interaction. The governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the 2023 general election in Zamfara State has insisted that the party is acting within the law in carrying out its political gathering. He stated this while reacting to allegations by the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, that the PDP had violated the new Executive Order 10, recently signed into law, which, among others, banned political activities till further notice in the state. The report.
The People's Democratic Party, PDP, vowed not to go against the laid-down rules and regulations in carrying out their political activities to seek votes ahead of the 2023 elections. As regards to the allegations of breaking the law in Zamfara State, PDP insisted that the party is acting within the law as provided in the Independent National Electoral Commission schedule and timetable of the electioneering activities. The governorship candidate of the PDP in the state, Dauda Lawal Dare, stated that the PDP is a law-abiding party and cannot attack people.
You are aware of a car that was burnt? When I left my house that night on my way to Zawiya, one of my cars was attacked. It's right there, a Toyota Corolla. They smashed the rear window, the rear glass. And we didn't see anything. We went ahead to continue peacefully until the following morning when the event was to take place. First of all, they made sure that none of our people came out from across all the local governments. The local government council were given order not to allow any car to move out of their local government. However, we were able to find our way, and eventually these people came to attend this gathering.
He said he is confident that PDP is well prepared to rescue Zamfara State from bad governance. The Zamfara State PDP governorship candidate denied alleged shooting or killing of anyone with dangerous weapons or sponsoring thugs to commit such crime on innocent people.
And now to our earlier story, where some northern Nigerian groups held formal engagements in Kaduna with 2023 presidential candidates on policy strategies and economic blueprints designed to address existential and contemporary challenges plaguing the North and the country in general. The motive of the idea, however, generated some controversy when one of the invited guests alleged that the group will endorse one presidential candidate who is bankrolling the interaction. In this report, Shafiu Suleiman examines the motives of the engagement and whether it will usher accountability in the leadership recruitment process.
The northern groups, consisting of Arewa Consultative Forum, Northern Elders Forum, Arewa Research and Development Project, amongst others, are interfacing with presidential candidates of various political parties to scrutinize their blueprints and policy options ahead of the next year's election. Candidates of the ruling party, the APC Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that of the main opposition party, PDP Atiku Abubakar, the Labour Party Peter Obi, amongst others, took turns to present their plans for the region and the country at large. Hakim Baba Ahmed is a spokesperson for the Northern Elders Forum, and Yarima Shatima is the leader of the Arewa Youth Consultative Forum. They both speak on the motives and outcome of the interactions.
We are assessing candidates and helping Northerners to choose. It's not the Northern groups that will vote, it is the Northerner that will vote. What we are trying to do is to improve the understanding of the Northerner and the Nigerian about who best deserves their votes.
There's still room for more interface with other candidates that we're thinking. Already we've been discussing over the issue, so there are possibilities that we might have to give an openings also and give another new date for likes of Al Mustafa, who is from the north, and also other contenders like Shawari and the rest of them to also partake, so that at the end of the each and every of them you would have done justice to him and at least give him a room to also make his own presentations.
Though NMPP presidential candidate Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso absented from the interaction, alleging plans to endorse one of the candidates, the organizers say such is far from the truth.
Yes, he wrote us a letter and said his manifesto is not ready. He has other commitments that clash with the dates. And then he says, in any case, your process, the platform has been tainted by one contestant has compromised this. And we found that laughable. First, we are begging him, please show the evidence that you have.
Northern Nigeria, which comprises of 19 out of the 36 states of the Federation, with a huge voting population, is faced with enormous challenges undermining its socio-economic development, despite its agricultural, solid minerals and other potentials. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And to Zamfara State now, where the state government has apologized to the 5 media organizations that were shut down over alleged violation of Executive Order 10, banning political activities till further notice. The special advisor to the governor of the state on intergovernmental affairs and chairman committee on prosecution of banditry-related offences apologized while briefing journalists over the decision of the state government to shut down 3 local councils and ban political activities until further notice. The special advisor to Zamfara State Governor on Intergovernmental Affairs and chairman of the Committee on Prosecution of Banditry-related offences, Abdullahi Shinkafi, raised alarm that Boko Haram terrorists are infiltrating the state, occupying Mutum village at Mada community, which informed the state government's decision to shut down Mada and other towns to tackle the activities of the terrorists and to restore peace in the troubled communities. The special advisor then called on citizens of the state to come together, irrespective of their political affiliation, to fight and flush out the terrorists in the state. And to security matters now, where gunmen on Monday night killed the village head of Nyalum community of Wasi local government area of Plateau State, Salisu Idris. The bandits had also gunned down 2 other residents of the community. Spokesperson of the Plateau State Police Command, DSP Alabu Alfred, while confirming the incident, said 3 people were killed, adding that details of the incident were still sketchy. The victims, according to residents, were killed in the village when the gunmen arrived at the community on motorcycles and started shooting sporadically to scare people. The residents told our correspondent that the attackers who invaded the village also abducted 5 members of the community, including 2 women. Shapi Isambo, a youth leader in Wasi, told the Daily Trust that the gunmen also made away with a good number of motorcycles belonging to people of the community. And at least 2 persons have been reportedly killed, while dozens, including a medical doctor, a pharmacist and nurses, as well as patients' relations, were abducted as bandits raided Abdusalam Abubakar General Hospital, Lapai local government area of Niger State. A victim of the attack, said to be a former staff of the hospital, was reportedly killed while attempting to run. Reports say some of the abducted hospital staff were the head of clinical services, the head of hematology, a staff of the medical laboratory and several others. Also abducted were the wife of the head of nursing services and his daughters, wife and a daughter of the chief pharmacist, and many other relations of patients. The attack is believed to be targeted at getting health personnel to treat some of the injured among the bandits in the forest. A staff of the hospital who was not on duty during the attack told our correspondent on telephone that all the staff on duty and patients whose cases were not severe were kidnapped. A resident said the attackers, numbering about 100, operated for several hours, shooting sporadically throughout, unchallenged, as vigilantes ran for their lives. The Niger State Police Command's Public Relations Officer, DSP Wasio Abiodun, however, promised to give details of the attack. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Army troops of 401 Special Forces Brigade on Tuesday launched the 2nd phase of Exercise Enduring Peace at the Step-Up headquarters in Guma local government area of Benue State. Commander of the 401 Brigade, Brigadier General Samaila Uba, said the exercise will be conducted by troops of the 401 Brigade and personnel from paramilitary agencies drawn from various commands within Benue State. Uba noted that the multi-agency operation, including the police, civil defense, among others, has commenced and will end on December 22nd. Adding that the exercise is aimed at addressing the various security challenges facing Benue State and, by extension, the entire nation. The commander for Special Forces Command, Major General Oluyinka Shoyele, in his address noted that the exercise would be conducted based on real-time intelligence to curb criminality in the state. Meanwhile, Governor Samuel Ortom, who flagged off the exercise, stressed the need to use all avenues to tackle the security challenges bedeviling the state and the country at large.
Aimed at addressing the various security challenges facing Benue State and, by extension, the entire nation. It will be conducted based on real-time intelligence with sister services and other security agencies within the state in order to enhance synergy and sharpen the skills of participants on the rudiments of operations, particularly at the joint tactical level. The exercise will also serve as an avenue for officers and men of 401 Special Forces Brigade to interact with their colleagues from sister security agencies and to exchange ideas towards enhancement of joint operations.
The strength of any nation is in the ability of its military to protect its territorial integrity and also support internal security operations. To achieve this significant role, the Nigerian security forces must strive to conduct joint training to promote interagency cooperation.
You're watching Trust TV News Hour. And still ahead, we'll tell you how bakeries struggle to meet up with running costs. Details of this and more after the break. Do stay with us.
That's good.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on Trust TV News Hour. Now let's recap our top stories. Constitutional amendments may suffer defeat as 25 states decline voting. And Northern groups denies endorsing any presidential candidate. And moving on to other news now, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU Maiduguri chapter, says the no work, no pay policy of the federal government for striking lecturers is not acceptable to the union. Chairman of the chapter, Abubakar Mshelia, who made the union's position known, said while the strike has been suspended following the appeal court ruling, it expects the federal government to meet ASU's demands. Mshelia revealed that members have met and decided to work, but noted that they are yet to decide when students are to return to campus.
We have agreed to suspend the strike at the moment, and it has been made very clear to the university administration, and that is the position of our members of the Congress. So that is the position. It's our legitimate right for us to be paid. That's made very clear. Of course, there are other collateral damages. No doubt, these people that you see as academics, they are also human beings. They have blood running in their veins, and which means we are also prone to having diseases. like any other person. And some of our members are on medication, life medication. You're talking about members who are diabetic or hypertensive, who are on lifetime medications. Now, you need money to buy medication. With the rate of inflation, the medication you likely buy, let's say for 3,000, is around 13,000.
Meanwhile, academic activities are yet to resume fully at the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi, despite the agitation for lecturers to return to the classrooms after the 8-month-old strike. Chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ATBU, Ibrahim, told Trust TV that lecturing is just one among many responsibilities of teachers, adding that non-commencement of lectures does not mean that the lecturers haven't started work. Adam Imam now reports.
The industrial action embarked by the Academic Staff Union of Universities since February this year has finally been called off, and mood does not suggest that the lecturers are in a hurry to commence full-time academic work.
Strike, all other activities relating to academic activities have ceased. The only thing that have ceased is teaching, which we are going to cover the lost ground. However, while we are on strike, we are also engaged in other activities that defines our responsibility as lecturers. We're engaged in community servicing, we've been engaged in conducting research, we've made a lot of publications, and we've contributed to the society.
On the issue of lecturers who already took a decision to quit lecturing, Ibrahim says such lecturers are at liberty to seek other means of livelihood, as many of them saw no end to the strike anytime soon.
They are working as lecturers, not under duress. They felt willingly that they want to be part of the university system. And if they feel that the condition in the university is not satisfactory for them, they can as well have a change of mind and look for a better, greener pasture elsewhere. But we've encouraged our members.
Having stayed at home for that long, one would have expected the student to hurry back to school immediately the strike was called off. But that doesn't seem the case, as students have not been seen in classes as well as the school environment. Some have attributed it to the current economic situation.
But as you can see, there are no students. Nobody has resumed their work because the resumption was impromptu. There was no notice to say, okay, in a month's time we'll call back, or in a few weeks. So, considering the fact that most students are outside the state, you don't expect to have them back immediately.
First of all, I want to say that the strike is an opportunity for students to learn one or two skills
for the school resumption. Generally, they have suspended the strike, but ATB hasn't released their calendar. So we're waiting for the calendar to be released for students to come back.
The union is confident that activities in the school will soon pick up, with students preparing for the academic year and looking forward to better education in the university. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
And still on the suspended ASU strike, registration for the 2020-2021 academic session at the University of Jos commences on Tuesday, following the calling off of the strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities. The commencement of the registration exercise was disclosed on Monday by the Deputy Registrar, Information and Publication in an interview with newsmen in Jos. Ado Musa completes the story.
According to the Deputy Registrar, the management of the university has approved the continuation of registration exercise for the undergraduate and postgraduate students of the university for the 2020-2021 academic session. This, according to him, is in preparation to the full resumption of academic activities for the first semester 2020-2021 academic session, which had been suspended due to the strike.
The suspension of the strike gladens our hearts, and because of that, the university has begun preparations for the resumption of academic activities. But I'm sure you may be aware that responsibility for the academic calendar and every academic activities actually rests on the Senate of the university. So the decision will be by Senate of the university.
On when the academic activities are expected to commence, he said date for resumption of class activities will be communicated in due course.
For now, management has directed that, or the resumption of registration by students. Before we had started our first semester 2020-2021 academic session. We had gone about 3 weeks into the semester before the strike commenced. And so some students, a few of them anyway, not too many, had not completed their registration process. So we are giving them 2 weeks between now and the 30th of October to complete their registration.
Some students also speak on the development.
Honestly, I feel excited to an extent, since because we've been at home for a while now, and then as far as comes off strike, I think we'll go back to our books.
Parents and students, while expressing joy over the suspension of the strike, they are however hopeful that the federal government and ASU will have permanent solution to avoid such occurrence. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
And the National Population Commission, NPC, says it will adopt a digitized process and optimize local content for the upcoming National Population and Housing Census, scheduled to hold in April 2023. To achieve this, the Commission is partnering the National Orientation Agency for a nationwide sensitization and advocacy campaign towards enlightening the public on the importance of participation from all. Trust TV's Aisha Salihu reports.
The sensitization campaign began with a roadshow, which was part of activities earmarked for the official flag-off of preparation leading to the conduct of the country's national census since the August 2006 head count. The exercise, which is intended to get accurate data on the growing population of Nigeria, will help the government plan better on how to distribute social amenities that would foster national development.
The importance of the national population census for purposes of planning, for purposes of legislative representation, for purposes of inclusivity, that will reflect the peculiarity of our national demography. Men, women, old, young, spread per local government, per state, per geopolitical zones.
The National Orientation Agency says it will use social media, street walks, engagements at marketplaces, motor parks, religious and traditional institutions in driving local content provided by the NPC from urban centers to rural communities.
In this respect, our community mobilization officers who speak the languages of the communities where they are sited, where they are located, that are culturally and traditionally nuanced in such communities.
Due to the complexity of the process and to avert any challenge of unaccounted persons and houses, the NPC says it is taking the digital route to achieve a near-perfect exercise.
It's going to be fully digital. It is not going to be digital. It's going to be a green census with all the problems we've been facing worldwide about climate change and our environment. We're also putting in to our questionnaire questions relating to our environment, the conditions that our citizens live in. We capture into the questionnaire. So the response we have and the data we capture, we'll be able to use it for environmental assessment and mitigation. The census is conducted to count the people that are in the country. We capture Nigerians and non-Nigerians resident in Nigeria. Nigerians that are outside the country, when those countries conduct their census, they will be counted there. So globally, nobody is left out.
The national exercise, which is set to hold in April 2023, will put to rest speculations about the true population of the country. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, bread is a favorite food for many families, but the rise in prices is changing all that, as bread is now going beyond the reach of the poor. Abdullahi Amadi reports that some bakeries in Katsina are struggling to survive the harsh economic realities. His report.
In Katsina, over 250 bakeries have collapsed, while about 310 struggling to remain in the business as a result of the high cost of baking materials.
On the flour, which we used to buy like 12,000, 11,500 before, is now 27,500, almost to 28,000. The oil, which is the groundnut oil we used to do it, is almost 32,000 plus. Sugar is 30,000, 31,000 plus, I believe. These are, and other materials, even the firewood. So that's the reason why there is increment of prices in all the breads for now.
Here, only 3 staff remain out of 42, baking 3 bags of flour daily instead of 18 bags in the past. Even at that, they resorted to producing what they called chin-chin bread to meet the demand of the majority that cannot afford a loaf of bread. Why are you asking this kind of question? In any case, this is a business. If I cannot make profit, I have to have a rethink. I honestly pity the young chaps I sacked from this bakery. Bakers are not happy that the government has not shown concern for their plight, which forced many to produce below capacity and downsize the number of their staff. The industry is key to the sustenance of socio-economic well-being of the people of Katsina State, considering the number of people along the value chain. As a leader, if I tell you that I am happy with the closure of some bakeries, I am lying. I urge government to come to our aid. Describing the situation as worrisome, the national president of Association of Master Bakers and Caterers of Nigeria is appealing to government to give them a bailout to prevent the risk of total collapse of the industry.
We are in very serious, challenging situations. The situation is daunting because a lot of our members have shut down their bakeries. About 30 to 40, and it's 5% of our members nationwide have shut down the bakeries and are still counting. The situation is not encouraging at all.
Unless this is done quickly, observers are saying the future of the industry in Nigeria is bleak and poses threat to the fragile peace being enjoyed in some parts of the country. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Now, food security is the measure of the availability of food and the ability of citizens to access it. Recent trends in the country have threatened the access of people to food, and observers are concerned that if things continue to degenerate, there is a real possibility that it could lead to a state of emergency in the agricultural sector in Nigeria. In this report, Noel Sampson looks at the preparations put in place by stakeholders in order to solve the problem at hand.
Food insecurity is lack of access to the kinds and amounts of food necessary for each member of a household to lead to an active and healthy lifestyle. This may be caused by climate change, insurgence, or inadequate use of yield-enhancing agricultural inputs, especially by the rural farmers who are the producers of food in Nigeria.
In this era of we are faced globally with food insecurity, and also from another angle, and also we're being severely chased by impacts of climate change on food security, food availability globally. So research like this, trying to provide solutions ready-made for users, and also creating a user interface.
The educational sector, which is also the bedrock of any development in any society, can also contribute to addressing the problem of food insecurity in the country by true studies and the deployment of models developed during research.
That is great. You know, you cannot talk about increasing income, increasing food security and productivity in Africa without taking into consideration the climate change phenomena that is happening all over the world. Our research project, all the 3 research projects that we are talking about here, are funded by the Market Risk and Resiliency Innovation Lab that addresses climate change as part of the resiliency measures.
This research is essentially about knowing the situation we are in and then intervening and then learning lessons for policies. So we have done the first part of the research is knowing where we are. And then from what we know of the literature, we try some interventions and then we observe the effect of those interventions and then learn lessons for future policy.
Stakeholders are of the view that agricultural transformation through inclusive and resilient innovation will serve as a base to tackle the problem in the country. Noel Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has cautioned ministers, permanent secretaries and heads of government agencies that abandoning the business of governance for electioneering will be viewed seriously. The president gave the warning on Tuesday at State House, Abuja, at the closing ceremony of the 2022 Ministerial Performance Review Retreat. He had earlier signed Executive Order 012, which gives the legal backing to improving performance management, coordination and implementation of presidential priorities. Kende Amodu reports.
With every passing day, the president is making things crystal clear that his administration is winding down, and now is the time to concentrate on leaving behind an enduring legacy. He's also instilling in members of government the same thinking, which is why he's telling participants at this retreat that the business of governance must continue to receive the needed attention despite the commencement of campaigns towards the 2023 general elections. Apparently, it is not too early to map out a transition plan for the incoming administration to ensure proper documentation of all policies, programs, and projects of government.
I have just shared with you a summary recommendations from some of the panel's discussions. My office will develop a detailed report on the recommendations from all the panel discussion sessions, including the technical sessions, which will be shared with all cabinet members.
The president has also directed the Ministry of Petroleum Resources to ensure the completion of the reorganization of the new agencies unbundled from the defunct Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation by the end of the first quarter of 2023. At the same time, he wants the National Assembly to fast-track the consideration and passage of key legislative bills.
With the commencement of the electioneering campaign towards the 2023 general election, the business of governance must continue to receive the needed attention during this period. Consequently, all ministers, permanent secretaries, and heads of agencies must remain focused in discharge of their duties.
Earlier, presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress in next year's election, Bola Tinubu, had in a goodwill message giving assurances that his government, if elected into power, would give the deserved recognition to the legacy of the Buhari administration.
The way and means of a Tinubu government will be devoted to further project and prosper the Nigerian people, because our guiding principle will be to provide the best of progressive governance.
The signing of Executive Order 12 is expected to institutionalize a culture of accountability and transparency in the pursuit of good governance. From State House, Abuja, Kende Amudu, Trust TV News.
Women farmers in Nasarawa State say they have lost crops and other agricultural produce estimated at over 200 million naira to flood this year across the 13 local government areas of the state. The women who decried the losses said the persistent floods have negatively affected their socio-economic lives and expressed worry that the situation could throw their families into hunger if no intervention comes their way soon. Briefing journalists as part of activities marking this year's World Food Day celebration in Lafia on Monday, spokesperson of the women farmers, Justina Anjungu, who is also the chairperson of the Association of Small-Scale Agro-Producers in Nigeria, narrated that 500 beneficiaries of her members in Lafia local government alone lost their crops, estimated at 50 million naira, to the ravaging flood this year. According to her, communities worst hit by the flood include Loko, Doma and Tunga, where many beneficiaries of different women farmer associations lost their crops to the flood. Meanwhile, chairman of the Rice Farmers Association in Taraba State, Tanko Bobi Andami, says despite the destruction of over 70% of rice farms by flood, the Taraba State and federal governments are yet to render any assistance to the affected farmers. He said in an interview that more than 350,000 farmers in Gasol, Karim Lamido, Ardokola, Ibi, Donga, Lau and parts of Wukari local government areas were affected by flood. According to him, residents of the affected areas were 95% farmers and have invested millions of naira in their farms, which have now been destroyed by the flood. He lamented the majority of the farmers took loans from rice processing companies and other middlemen, noting that with the destruction, only intervention from the government and other spirited groups and individuals can save them from the impending financial crisis. He called on the Central Bank of Nigeria to start the distribution of loans to rice farmers to enable them commence dry season farming in order to gain what they have lost to the flood. You're still watching Trust TV News Hour. The news continues shortly after this break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Trans TV News Hour. The Bua Group has replied Kogi State government, saying it is no longer interested in taking a 50,000 hectare land in the state. The group said the land cannot be used for its intended purpose. The Kogi House of Assembly had on Monday summoned the Bua Group over 50,000 hectare land allegedly acquired 10 years ago without payment. The Assembly says the company held the land for more than 10 years without paying for it, adding that if the company refuses to pay for the land and compensate the community, the government would revoke its certificate of occupancy. The Bua Group, while reacting to the development in a statement on Tuesday, said it has not yet taken possession of the land and did not utilize it for factors which included lack of infrastructure and security challenges. According to the company, feasibility studies on the land revealed that only about 30% of the entire landmass was suitable for the company's investments. We will now join Chiamaka Nwafo for business news.
The Nigeria Liquefied and Natural Gas NLNG company has declared force majeure because the flooding ravaging the country has disrupted supply. A spokesman for the company, Andy O'Day, said on Monday. O'Day said NLNG was determining the extent of the disruption and would try to mitigate the impact of the force majeure. Floods have hit parts of Nigeria in the last 2 months, with the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, saying that about 2.5 million persons were affected and over 603 persons killed by the flooding caused by torrential rainfall. Force majeure, a common clause in contracts, essentially frees both parties from liability or obligation when a circumstance beyond the control of the parties, like war, crime, epidemic, or sudden legal changes, prevents one or both parties from fulfilling their obligations under the contract. The collection of more taxes and effective blocking of revenue leakages remain the best measures that would drastically cut external borrowing and reduce the high debt burden of Nigeria. This is according to the federal government on Tuesday. The government, however, said the debt burden was not beyond what it could effectively handle. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed, represented by Director Technical Services Fatima Hayetu, canvassed these views at a workshop on tax expenditure organized by the Economic Community of West African States Commission under the context of the implementation of the support program for tax transition in West Africa in Abuja. The event was aimed at examining directives on harmonization of tax expenditure management practices and the monitoring and evaluation of tax transition in ECOWAS member states. The minister said the issue of tax expenditure was of great concern to the government. And that's it on Business News.
Uganda's High Commissioner to Nigeria, Nelson Ochega, wants a cooperation between African countries in education, trade, tourism, security and other areas of development for Africa strengthened for the continent to thrive at the global stage. Speaking against the backdrop of Nigeria-Uganda relations and the Ugandan National Day celebration in Nigeria during an interview with our correspondent, the Ugandan ambassador harped on the need for a change in mindset for Africa to do business with Africa. Nelson Ochega said while trade volumes between Nigeria and Uganda remain low, both can explore more areas of mutual economic benefit, such as dairy production, wheat, coffee, among others.
Let us carry out mindset change. There has always been a tendency for us in Africa to think and sometimes believe that whatever is produced in Africa is poor quality and whatever is produced outside Africa is good quality. That is not the case. I represent Uganda in Nigeria, but I also cover all other ECOWAS member states. So I am Uganda's ambassador to all those ECOWAS member states. And I've traveled the breadth and the width of West Africa. And I can tell you without any hesitation that our countries here in West Africa produce quality products. But we prefer to buy things which come outside Africa than to buy things that are made in Africa. So to overcome that, we must carry out mindset change.
Now for a look at the foreign scene, where the United Nations says an estimated 7.8 million people, which is roughly half the population of Somalia, are now affected by drought, of whom 213,000 are at high risk of famine. United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF spokesman James Elder said things are bad and every sign indicates that they are going to get worse, adding that without greater action and investment, they are facing deaths of children on a scale not seen in half a century. Somalia faces famine on a scale last seen half a century ago. The United Nations has said it has set a new target of more than $2 billion in funding needs. In August, 44,000 children were admitted to health establishments with severe acute malnutrition. And Somalia has suffered 4 successive failures in its rainy season since the end of 2020, and there are fears that a 5th failure is now underway. Eritrea is intensifying its involvement in neighboring Ethiopia's civil war, hampering efforts to end fighting. That destabilized the entire Horn of Africa for almost 2 years. The conflict has pitted Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's federal troops against forces loyal to the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, which rules the northern Tigray region. Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki backed Abiy from the onset of the hostilities and recently embarked on a nationwide forced conscription campaign to shore up his army with a view to crushing the TPLF, a long-standing foe. The TPLF accuses Eritrea of staging attacks in Tigray since fighting flared in August, 5 months after a truce was declared. Eritrea continues to shell towns and villages across northern Tigray, and thousands of the new conscripts, including women and the elderly, have been deployed to the front lines. We'll now join Adeni Ajishafe for sports news.
Former world champion Jigere Wellington confirming superiority in Scrabble at the first ever Scrabble Grand Slam tournament held in Lagos. Wellington, who was the pre-tournament favourite, justified his status as African Scrabble finest by winning the Grand Slam. Many watched the Scrabble event through Twitter platform on projected screen from separate halls to ensure that every move of the top 2 players were captured. Wellington won in the best game of 5 against former world number 4, Opeyemi Oloro, after both players finished as the best 2 in a 24 round of games, with Jigere racing to a 2-1 lead, while Oloro rallied back into contention. Jigere's landing with bingos on the board gave him a good game in round 4 as the winner of the tournament to claim $1 million top prize with a giant trophy. Opeyemi Oloro came second to receive 500,000 naira for his effort, while others who finished in the top 10 were given cash prizes. President, Nigerian Scrabble Federation Toki Aka commended the Grand Slam organizers from projecting Scrabble as a global sport, considering the level of innovations being injected into Scrabble development in Nigeria by MGN team led by Lukman Owolabi.
After the World Championship, you went back to the UK and carved a niche for himself, but he never forgot where he started from, and thus decided at some time that it was payback time. It is not everybody that comes to say thank you.
Winner of the 4th Scrabble Grand Slam, Jigere Wellington, said 2022 has been a phenomenal year for him in Scrabble tournament as he hopes to do more in the years ahead.
I have had some interesting years in Scrabble, but I think, like you rightly said, this has been a phenomenal year for me, and I hope to continue to put in more work and do better and better in the years to come.
Scrabble players from Nigeria, United States of America, United Kingdom, Ghana, Gambia, and Liberia participated at the Grand Slam event. The tournament afforded players the opportunity to prepare for the 2022 African Scrabble Championship starting on 21st of October in Lusaka, Zambia. That's Sport News. I am Adeni Ajijafe.
And that wraps up Trans TV News Hour for tonight. For more news, you can subscribe and follow us across all our social media platforms. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Have a lovely evening.